You know when you see shots from a fighting game tournament and everyone is sitting in the world's cheapest folding chairs and nobody has shaved in a year and everyone is holding that giant controller that looks like an airplane control panel? Well, playing as today's Star Wars Hunters character is a lot like that. The controller, I mean, not the other stuff. She has shaved, specifically the sides of her head. I don't know anything about her seating situation. Anyway, my name is Winton, and today we're gonna talk about Rieve, the dark side assassin.
I hope you're not afraid of the dark.
I'm gonna try and save the lore for the end of the video, because I know that most of you are just here to learn how to play her. That's not gonna stop me from gushing over her for a second, though. The most important things to know about Rieve are these. She's a glass cannon, playing her is almost like playing a different game, and she's hot. Okay, maybe the last thing isn't that important, but damn if it ain't true. Rieve is the punk rock goth girl of our dreams. Yes, I'm including you in this, no takebacks. And I'll be dead in the cold hard ground before I refuse to acknowledge this. Now, before you gang up on me for being weird about an attractive woman in a video where I'm supposed to be teaching you gameplay mechanics, I just need you to know that I actually have a hot goth girlfriend in real life. So I'm allowed to say this. Also, you look me in the eyes and tell me they weren't trying to make her attractive. Okay, now that I've got that out of my system, let's actually talk about Rieve's moves. We will start off with the Life Preserver. I mean, Lifesaver. I mean, Lightsaber. God, these 100-degree October days are really getting to me. So, while our other saber user, J3DI, uses a blue lightsaber, Rieve's is red. This is just for aesthetic purposes, not for evil reasons. I mean, come on. Anakin's lightsaber was red, and he was... Okay, bad example, forget I said that. Her lightsaber does the same amount of damage that the droid's does, but Rieve can attack faster, so she can actually get eliminations quicker than him. Rieve also does a bunch of acrobatic moves while she attacks, which doesn't affect anything, but she looks great doing it. The two might do the same amount of damage, but other than their shared ability to block with the lightsaber, that's pretty much where the similarities end. Let's move on to Rieve's long list of unique abilities, shall we? First up, we're gonna talk about her talent. Just so I can get this out of the way. If you watched my Char video, you've already heard me complain about this, but there's absolutely no reason to call this move a talent. Vicious Leap is Rieve's simplest and easiest move, and the name pretty much explains the whole idea. Press the L button, or if you're on mobile, hold down the jump button, and Rieve will force leap way into the distance. I don't have an official measurement on the range of this move, but I believe an educated mathematician would call it real damn far. Also, it's good to note that you can get a lot of verticality out of this move, so even if the escalator is out of order, our Sith Huntress will still be able to make it up there no problem. You can hold down the button to line up exactly where you want her to land, but she'll move just a tiny bit slower when you do so. The hologram will show Rieve landing in the selected spot, and the bubble will indicate the radius of damage. If you lock onto an enemy, the image of Rieve will disappear, but the bubble will still follow them around, even if they're moving. For some reason, the game doesn't tell you about the damage effect or the cooldown of Vicious Leap, so I figured it out for you with my big wrinkly brain. Rieve will deal 25 damage to anybody inside of the bubble where she lands, and the only thing that can block this is Slingshot's unstable shield. The cooldown on this ability is a tiny little 2¼ seconds, so you can pretty much use it constantly. For reference, you can do this 18 times in a single minute. That sounds exhausting, but Rieve never skips leg day. Next up on the list is lightsaber throw, which is also pretty self-explanatory. She take-a the lightsaber, she throw-a the lightsaber, she catch-a the lightsaber. Magnifique. This might not seem like it right away, but it's one of the most lethal moves in the entire game. See, starting out, the throw only does 60 damage, but that's where the beauty of the attack comes in. If you line it up right, you'll hit enemies on the throw and the return. That's 120 damage right there. Is 120 not enough for you? Well, you're in luck, because once you hit level 5, the damage will increase to 75 damage. That's 150 damage if you land both hits, which means you can instantly eliminate any Scora or Rieve on the opposing team. In Smash Bros, we call that a 0 to death, and ooh, it feels good. You may have noticed that there are some other upgrades on this chart. And what do you want? A medal? A gold star? Some chalky milk? I'm kidding, these numbers are important too. The distance she can throw the lightsaber increases from 10 meters to 12, meaning she can hit people just a little bit farther away. Unfortunately, Rieve can't attack or do anything else when she uses this because, you know, she doesn't have her lightsaber. This means you gotta wait until it comes back to start doing other stuff. For reference, and you can do the math at home by dividing the distance of the lightsaber traveled by the speed of the lightsaber overall, the speed upgrade actually just kind of balances it out to make the duration the same at every level, around 0.6 seconds. Oh, and by the way, the cooldown on this is the longest of any of her abilities, being a full 7 seconds. It'll start regenerating as soon as the lightsaber comes back to your hand. The last bit of info is that you can hold down the button to make sure that it's aiming exactly where you want it to be, and you can cancel it too if you change your mind. Along with this, the lane that appears in front of you will change red to the spots where it's going to hit an enemy on the way out. Ready for move number 3? We're just getting started here, folks. One more spot down the list, we've got Ruthless Pursuit. Try saying that 5 times fast. I like to call this one the M&M because it combines movement and murder. This one is great in any situation for a handful of reasons. Ruthless Pursuit sends Rieve dashing along the ground, and if she slams into an enemy, she gets to cut them up like a politician cutting the ribbon at a new hospital. Much like every other move so far, Rieve can charge this one up to aim it exactly where she wants it to go, and cancel it if she changes her mind. This is extra nice for Pursuit because it means you can lock on to a specific enemy. This thing has about 10 meters of range, but Rieve will close the distance by a meter or two if you're targeting an enemy. Now, the most interesting part of Pursuit is that if you get an elimination using it, it will decrease its own cooldown time. The higher your level, the easier this is, because the damage will eventually increase from 65 to 75. At max level, getting an elimination will reset the cooldown by a full 4 seconds, which is the entire cooldown of the move. This means that if you can dash into someone and eliminate them with that 75 damage, you will be able to instantly use it again. Imagine, if you will, chaining these together over and over to get a full squad elimination by just slamming into people at Mach speeds. Does Sega know about this? Should we get Sonic the Hedgehog on the line? Don't be afraid to use this all the time, by the way, as that 4-second cooldown means you can use it as soon as you spawn into the arena, and then by the time you see your first enemy, you'll be able to use it again. Oh, and by the way, there won't be any visual indication that you decrease the cooldown. The bubble will just fill up faster the next time. Okay, almost there. Just another several things to go. Next up is Rieve's personal lightsaber block, which the game refers to as Wild Defense. If you watched my J3DI video, you know this shit gets a little crazy. Unlike the droid, however, Rieve's kit is way less dependent on this. While J3 is built to withstand a lot of incoming damage with a stamina meter that maxes out at 230, Rieve gets locked at 150 and doesn't go anywhere. This is not to say that her defense is way worse, just that you shouldn't rely on it too much or you'll get overwhelmed very quickly. We're gonna do a bunch of comparisons here, so hold tight. After the difference in stamina totals, Rieve's stamina actually refills a lot faster than J3DI's does. His is locked at a 3-second delay before it starts regenerating, and he only gets 60 stamina restored per second. Meanwhile, Hers starts at 2.5 and eventually decreases to 2 seconds, and goes from 60 to 80 regenerated per second. This means that as soon as she stops getting hit, whether she's still holding her lightsaber up or not, the gauge will begin to refill much quicker. The cooldown once it gets knocked out is the same though, 5 seconds each. The last aspect of this is the increased damage to deflected lasers. They both max out at a 30% boost, but Rieve gets the 10% boost a level before he does, and J3DI gets the 30% boost a level before she does. I don't really want to melt your brain out of your ears with the explanation again, so if you're really interested in the math, go watch my J3DI video. I will say real quick as the last bit of comparison, J3DI can deflect a total of 46 of Sentinel's lasers on a full bar of stamina, while Rieve can only do 30. The important thing to know is that her lightsaber can block and deflect all the same stuff that his can, and I'll put a link in the comments to the chart that I used to show that off. Whew, boy. We have been here for a minute, huh? Don't worry, I promise this is the last thing. You know, before we get into the other things. Why do I do these things to myself? How long is this video? What year is it? Okay. Ultimate time. Everybody's favorite ultimate in the game that never makes anybody angry for any reason. Definitely. Our lovely Sith lady has what I would call the deadliest ultimate in the entire game. Is the other team bothering you? Don't you wish they would all just stop moving and let you eliminate them like good little boys and girls? Wintonic Industries does not support or endorse hitting children with lightsabers. Well, wish no more. Crushing Will is here to make your dreams a reality. Rieve unleashes the most powerful explosion of force since the Force Unleashed video games, very apt title, in a giant circle around her. This leaves Rieve vulnerable while she throws her hands up in the air, but as soon as they hit their peak, everyone within the 10-ish meter radius of her gets stunned and then instantly dragged to her feet. The stun lasts about 3 seconds, which is almost always enough time to deal enough damage to eliminate pretty much anybody, especially if you've got your team nearby helping you out. Even if you don't, everyone affected by the ult will take 50 damage anyway. This combos into Rieve's kit extremely well, because as soon as everyone is laying at your feet, you can just start slashing them to death, and if any of them get up and try to run away, you can just use the lightsaber throw or ruthless pursuit to finish the job. Real quick, there are a couple of characters that can survive this. Char can manage most of it if he just uses the regen booster right before he gets stunned, or right after he stands up, so he just gets healed instead. The other one is Sentinel, as my Imperial baby boy gets a special pass here. No one is actually sure if this is on purpose or not, but if you just aim the shield directly at Rieve when she uses her abilities, you don't get stunned or pulled at all. I'm being serious too. This has been in the game the whole time and they haven't patched it out. Anyway, other than that, Crushing Will is one of the top 3 ults in the entire game, and if you use it correctly, you can just get a squad wipe like that. Here we are now, a feature film's length of time later, with all the knowledge we could ever hope to have about the arena's most swoon-worthy hunter. That's right, I get to go back to talking about how hot she is. Let's start with the hottest piece of advice I could possibly give you for Rieve. Turn on auto melee. Seriously, do it. Go into your settings, scroll down to melee firing mode, and switch it to auto. This will guarantee that Rieve will immediately slash at anybody that comes even a white hair's length into range. Auto melee ensures instant follow-ups to moves like leap and pursuit, so you can just tack on a quick 45 extra damage to those. This is even smarter than having auto melee on for Graz and J3DI because Rieve attacks so quickly. Speaking of adding damage, let's look at some numbers. There's almost nothing you can do with Rieve that doesn't deal damage. So my personal strategy is to memorize some ability combos I can chain together. An easy one is the full menu combo, where you leap to an enemy, hit them with the lightsaber throw, and then follow it up with Ruthless Pursuit. This uses all 3 of your offensive abilities at once, but if you can nail it at max level, you will deal 250 damage in the course of 2 seconds. That's enough damage to eliminate 2/3 of the cast. And if you have auto melee on, you can add in 2 extra lightsaber hits, meaning you could boost yourself by 45 to 90 damage instantly. 340 damage like that. If you'd like to play it a bit safer, you could always go with what I call the in and out combo, where you leap to an enemy, hit them with pursuit, and then leap away. This will only do 100 damage, but it can be extremely disorienting for your opponents and is a very good way to finish off some enemies that your teammates have already put the hurt on. If you'd like to keep a bit of distance, at least initially, you could always try the ultimate frisbee, where you throw your lightsaber at them and then follow it up with Ruthless Pursuit. This will do 225 damage at max level if you can hit all 3 impacts. It's also nicer to use against enemies who are reloading or melee focused, because they can't do that much against your range. Basically, the idea is to make sure that you're doing the best move or combo of moves for the situation, and to make sure that you follow up with those lightsaber hits in between. The next thing I'm gonna say is gonna sound like a joke, probably more so than the jokes I actually wrote into this video, but trust me when I say this. You can be good at Rieve if you were good at World of Warcraft or League of Legends. This is because of the other set of numbers that you have to keep in mind when you're playing Rieve. Having more abilities than every other hunter also means that you have more cooldowns to keep track of. Time for everyone's favorite thing in any of these videos. Look at this chart I made. This is how often you can use each of her moves over the course of 12 seconds. You essentially want to have this scrolling through your mind like it's Guitar Hero during every single match. That, or look down in the corner every couple seconds. If you can keep track of this, then that's it. You'll win the game. To close out the strategy section, we have to acknowledge that even Rieve isn't perfect, as insane as that sounds. Her first problem is her tiny little health pool, just 150 total. That is the smallest health bar in the game, and Skora is the only other hunter that sits down there with her. This means that she can become overwhelmed and eliminated faster than you can say,
"Mother trucker, dude! That hurt like a butt cheek on a stick."
The hunters that can most easily do this to her are Sentinel, Imara, and Char. Sentinel can block Rieve's ult and tear her up with just 15 bullets. This becomes even easier if he lands a stun. Imara has the missile, which Rieve literally cannot block, and she can take her out with just 6 well-placed headshots. Both of these are formidable opponents, but the real problem comes in with Char. Guess what? If Char tethers you, you can't use your movement abilities, which means the only things you'll be able to do are slash, throw, and block. Guess what else? If you get stuck in the trap, you have the exact same problem. This gives Char the chance to carefully aim his massive shotgun directly at your face and blast you out of existence with just 2 well-placed shots. What do you do in these situations? Well, with Imara and Sentinel, you can focus on keeping your guard up and then overwhelming them the second you get an opening. Against Char? Think about what you could have done differently while you stare at the respawn timer. Sorry. Alright, now I'm getting tired of hearing myself talk. Just kidding, that'll never happen. So we're gonna close this baby out by doing some lore. I have given you a textbook's worth of information about the Darkside Assassin, but would you like to know the most interesting thing about Rieve that I have saved for absolute last? Despite being the 8th hunter you unlock, Rieve is actually the main character. That's what the book is about anyway. Rieve's journey from being an orphan on the streets of Corellia to joining the arena and making a name for herself. You heard me right, by the way. there's an official Star Wars Hunters book, and it's called Battle for the Arena. Like I mentioned, it revolves around Rieve. Let's start from the beginning. Rieve was an orphan who grew up on the streets of Coronet City. The book tells us about how she grew up to eventually become a career, running jobs around the city. One day, while out working, Rieve notices that she's being followed, and eventually a group of thugs corners her in an alleyway. Rieve is unaware of her Force sensitivity at the time, but ooh boy does it come as a big surprise to both her and the thugs when she knocks all of them out with a giant Force push. This is a lot to handle for a teenager. As most people do when they discover that they have superpowers, Rieve freaks out and leaves the planet. From there, she joins a gonk rock band, which is where a lot of the in-game mentions of punk rock and music stuff comes from. Skipping some minor details, this also ends, unfortunately, when a heckler hacks into their audio system and pisses Rieve off so much that she destabilizes the entire building they're in. Once again on the run, Rieve spots a sign at the docks that advertises signups for the arena, featuring images of Skora, Graz, Imara, and Sentinel. Seizing the opportunity, she travels to Vespara and gets the job by just kicking the door down and demanding it. God, I wish job hunting was that easy. Soon, we learn something interesting. Rieve isn't Sith at all. They just dress her up that way because the arena likes characters. A man named Doc Dragus, which is Star Wars as hell, explains that actually pretty much everybody there is playing a character, kind of like professional wrestling in real life. The Jawas aren't actually that mischievous, and Sentinel doesn't really care about the Empire. It's just that having someone to hate watch sells more tickets. Fun fact, Rieve's voice doesn't even sound like that. She's just doing it for the character. Kind of like Stephanie Beatriz in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Another wildly attractive person with a lot of surface anger that hides a real nice personality behind it. I won't spoil the whole plot for you, but the book's actually pretty good. There's danger and betrayal and a nice message at the end about friendship that helps Rieve grow into a better person and gains more control over her Force powers. Good, heartwarming stuff. You can read the first couple chapters for free on Google right now, but if you actually want to pick the book up, it's not that expensive. Also, for those of you looking for extra secrets, the book actually has a lot of information in it that isn't present in the game at the time of the book's release, like the Hoth map. Thank you so much for watching this one. Did you learn things? Good. Homework's due tomorrow. I personally think that Rieve is very fun to play as, so I hope that this helps you feel that way too. I wanted to say too, I really appreciate all the very nice things you guys have been saying here and on Reddit. They truly encourage me to keep making these. As always, don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and then leave me some thoughts on this one and what you'd want to see in the future, both in Star Wars Hunters and just anything else that might interest you. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. So long, Arena fans.